Speciality Steels UK, the country's third largest steelmaker employing nearly 1,500 people, has just been forced into compulsory liquidation by the High Court, and now the court has appointed the official receiver to take control. Think about that. One of the UK's biggest industrial employees gone into forced liquidation. What went wrong and what can directors learn from this collapse? And I know what a lot of you are thinking. If a company this size, backed by an international group, can collapse, how on earth have I got a chance? But this is not about doom and gloom. It's about learning from these big insolvencies, because the warning signs and the legal processes are the same whether you employ 10 staff or 1,500. Now in this video I'm going to break down why Speciality Steels ended up in compulsory liquidation. I'm going to talk to you about what the court process actually involved, what happened to staff, creditors, and what's happening to the business right now, and the 3 lessons every UK director should take from this story. And by the end, you're going to understand what this case says about the UK economy in 2025 and how you can protect yourself if your own company is under pressure. So, what actually happened at Speciality Steels? Well, it was part of something called Liberty Steel. It's owned by a chap called Sanjeev Gupta, and it makes steel from sites in Sheffield and Rotherham. And again, it's a massive employer. Nearly 1,500 people work there. But the group has been under massive pressure for years. It has been squeezed by debt, rising energy prices, falling steel demands. And in May, they dropped plans to restructure a Part 26A restructuring plan. Okay. Now, after that, Gupta tried to line up some new funding from BlackRock and Federa. And these people sort of specialise in distressed companies, and his idea was to buy the business back. Now, at the liquidation hearing, so it's been wound up by the courts, Gupta has made an application to the court to adjourn it. And what he wanted to do, it was to give him time to put the company into administration. And obviously that would have been a court-appointed administration. And that would have allowed a planned sale to go ahead immediately. But the court refused. And the judge decided compulsory liquidation was the only option. Now the result, the company's now in compulsory liquidation. The official receiver is the liquidator, and they've brought in a special insolvency practitioner to assist with it all. Because here's what's different. The government has stepped in temporarily to cover wages and keep the furnaces running while a buyer sort. Now, what liquidation means in practice? Well, for staff, 1,500 employees could be directly affected. Normally, in liquidation, staff are made redundant immediately or 2P'd over to a new company. But here the government has agreed to cover wages and operational costs short term to protect jobs while a buyer's found. And that's pretty unusual. And it shows how politically sensitive this insolvency actually is. Now, if you're a creditor, well, suppliers and creditors face big uncertainty, because in a compulsory liquidation, the debts are frozen. The liquidator or the insolvency practitioner will try and sell assets and creditors and basically get some money in for creditors for repayment, depending on where they sit on the order of hierarchy of who gets paid. Now, remember, unsecured creditors, the return is normally pennies in the pound, if anything at all. Now, what it actually means for the business, now there's these special insolvency practitioners who are there doing day-to-day operations, and the aim is to keep the business trading long enough to get a buyer. But it's still in liquidation. The company as it is exists. It's actually finished. And the sale will be of the assets, not of the legal entity itself. Now, the bigger picture and why Speciality Steel struggled, again, it's not just about this company. The steel industry has been hit hard by global competition, higher energy costs, lower demand, and Liberty Steel was already under massive scrutiny after the collapse of its main backer, someone called Greensill Capital, and that happened in 2021. Speciality Steels was on borrowed time. Now, I want to go in why we think the court refused a pre-pack. Quick drink. The director wanted to use a pre-pack administration to line up a sale quietly. The court refused because it judged compulsory liquidation would be fairer to creditors. And it's a reminder that the judge will step in if they think pre-pack favours directors over creditors. Now, if a household name employing 1,500 people can be wound up by the court, it shows how quickly things can move. Directors can't rely on 11th hour funding, and when cash runs out, the courts can act. Now, the lessons for the UK directors here, what can you take from Speciality Steel's liquidation? Well, the first one is don't rely on last minute rescues. Speciality Steel has pinned all its hopes on new funding right up until the liquidation hearing, and it didn't arrive, and the court wasn't willing to wait. If your business is insolvent, don't gamble on a white knight. Get some advice early, and please, please, please don't ever let it get to a winding up petition. Lesson 2, compulsory liquidation removes all control. So once that winding up petition has gone to the courts and it's been served on you, and then it gets advertised, the petition's granted, and you are at the court and you can't pay and you go into compulsory, you've lost all control. The official receiver will take over, and if you want more influence or a degree of control on the situation, the minute you're getting threatened with a winding up petition, you've got to take advice, and it's almost always better to put it through a voluntary liquidation process as opposed to being compulsory liquidated. And lesson 3, political support is very rare. It's the exception, not the rule. Here the government is covering wages. It's temporary because they believe it's strategic. Most directors, in fact no other directors, will get this safety net. Don't assume the bank's government or anyone else will step in, plan early. So what happened? Speciality Steel has dropped its Part 26A restructuring plan, but it failed to secure new funding and it was forced into compulsory liquidation by the court. 1,500 jobs hang in the balance and the government temporarily are footing the bill. The lesson's clear: act early, explore every option, and don't leave your company's survival to the last minute. If you're a UK director under pressure from creditors, don't wait for the courts to decide your fate. Contact us today at Director First. We'll guide you through what your options are and will help you take back control. Subscribe now for more plain insolvency breakdowns, and if you're interested in more videos like this, go and have a click at that video and we'll talk you through what happened to Claire's accessories in the US and what's happening to it in the UK now, and you might be able to learn a thing or two. Worden, Director First.